Welcome back to Improvision Entertainment. My name is Huntermun, and this is going to be more of Euro Truck Simulator 2. I am not quite giving up on Italy, but we are going to put off doing the Rome thing until maybe the end of stream, but this is the beginning of stream, in which I am going to begin listening to the news for September the 12th, which is 3 days ago, Monday, from when I am in your past, if you're watching this later on YouTube. I hope you don't mind, but trigger warning for the news. Who knows? Could cover war, could cover abortion rights. Who knows what's going to happen? Otherwise, you can see over here in the map in the window over to the side that we are going to be going from Venice to Le Mans, taking a detour to go to Dijon, because this is lots of area we haven't gone to before. Ella Hutton, thank you very much for the follow. Oh, and the zombie showed up on screen like it was supposed to. Nice. I'm not certain that's been working. How you doing? Let me know if you don't want to hear the news, because I'm about to turn the news on, because I was expecting nobody to be around. But also, I'm doing okay. Since you followed the channel, you might be interested in voting in the current poll for what games I'll be playing next month on stream. And whichever games are doing the best are the games that I will be focusing on next month. They're all horror elements. They're not necessarily horror games, but they're games that have spooky atmospheres or permanent death or roguelike elements or whatever. So just putting that out there. Whoops. I haven't figured out how to get the back button to work on this thing. Alright, in any event, first episode curse as far as things are concerned. Where's that? That's weird music to be playing over that. The hell is that? Why is that? What is that? Okay, weird. We haven't even started yet and things are already falling apart. How are you doing today, Ella, though? I'm doing okay. It could be a lot colder in this room, though. It's super hot in here, and that's probably going to be making me melt at some point. Hold on, refresh current page. This is a weird start to an opening. Okay, we're gonna let it run because it seems to be part of the audio of the thing. Hopefully they'll figure themselves out. I don't know why that music is playing over the rest of it, but they fixed it. Okay.
All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Jake Ugranik is sparing with you guys. We have kind of an awesome show today. That's the kind of show we have today. Already we have a comment from the audience on Twitch. Torch Crimson writes in, I just made blueberry peach cobbler. That's the kind of random comment that I love to hear. Sounds delish. Okay.
That does sound good. I have been on a sugar binge today.
I didn't
In fact,
rest at the end of my last run.
all I've eaten. Like endless pastries and cookies. I don't know.
So we'll
what
be
has
hitting the
gotten
first
into me,
rest
but
area.
I can't stop.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
we
Can't
are
stop, won't stop.
taking a very
Yeah,
heavy
well,
and
this is
expensive
the
piece of
last 20 years
equipment
of my life.
to Western Europe.
All right, listen, as you can tell,
Oh,
we're already
thought it was
having
wider.
fun, and we do have a little bit of good news in the beginning, but it's kind of a tricky one. And then we got a lot of international stories today. I need you to buckle up. Some disasters, some good news. Casper, take it away.
Hell yeah, Jank. Are you Mr. Worldwide? Are you taking that title from Pitbull? Is that what's happening?
Look, I'm not saying it. Other people are saying it. You just said it. Okay.
All right. Well, our first stop is Ukraine, so let's get right to it.
All right, this is the news for Monday, September 12th,
It's like
2022.
a monkey with grenade.
Like a monkey with a grenade.
We don't know what they do. And they playing with grenade in. It's like Russia.
You just heard from is a Ukrainian man from the southern Ukrainian town of Mykolaiv, a area of Ukraine that is still unfortunately occupied by Russian troops. However, it's not all bad news for Ukrainians because one of the biggest updates is that they were able to
Crap.
essentially implement some offensive missions that allowed for them to take back certain areas of Ukraine that had been occupied by Russian forces. In fact, it looks like the $15 billion the United States has sent to Ukraine in the form of military aid is paying off. Ukrainian troops have made gains, and Russian troops are reportedly fleeing the country, or at least parts of the country. And this is after 28 weeks of occupation. Reports indicate that Russian troops just dropped their rifles on the ground and booked it in certain parts of Ukraine that, again, they had previously occupied.
Morale break.
Now, there's always fog of war. Some of these details have yet to be confirmed, but it does appear that the military weaponry that Ukraine has been able to obtain thanks to aid from the United States has paid off. And in this next video, you're going to see some more detail into which areas of Ukraine the Ukrainian troops were able to take back. Let's watch.
How have the Ukrainians been able to do this, and what's the significance?
Yeah, over 1,000 square miles. It's an area that was lost since February, but now has been gained back. The key here is Izium. That was the main center of command and control. But they did a classic military pincer movement. They brought troops in from this direction. They brought troops in from this direction. They were able to chase the Russian military across the Oskil River here on the other side, on the eastern side of the Oskil River. A lot of it has to do with the artillery, because now our artillery can fire 50 kilometers over. They're now be able to chase that Russian military well past that Oskil River, giving them that advantage on their side of the river.
I think there's a lot of emphasis on the artillery, the weaponry, because of course it's meant to bolster support for the U.S. efforts to provide that kind of aid to Ukraine. And while I sympathize with that perspective, specifically because the United States had made security guarantees for Ukraine as long as Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons, at the same time,
Oops,
it is
I shifted
fascinating
that
to
the wrong
see
way.
how easily, with no debate, $15 billion of military aid gets approved for Ukraine, whereas here in the United States, getting any type of social spending passed is like pulling teeth. It's so incredibly difficult.
Yeah. Well, Anna, I think that this story is really interesting in a couple of different ways, and we should be a little bit careful before we get too excited. But on the excited front, well, look, we sent a lot of money, really, over to defense contractors, and they sent.
This seems a little like it's going to be top heavy. Like I need to be careful in curves.
You know, we're taking a lot of credit, partly because we're America, and partly because we want to make it seem like that $15 billion worked. In reality, the thing that worked the best were honestly the Turkish drones, and I don't say that because of rando Turkish pride.
Oh, yeah, the Turkish drones. Okay.
Yeah, no, and in fact, that guy, the guy who made those drones, is connected to Erdogan, who kind of likes Russia. So there's a little bit of drama there. So and they've
I still managed to
both
wing
sides
that.
of this war. But the bottom line is that it doesn't matter where they're from. Relatively small military equipment won the day, as opposed to giant pieces of equipment that cost billions of dollars, right? No matter where it came from. So now that's the good news, right? That, hey, it turns out even if you're a giant country, it is really
Oh, right,
hard
because
to
I'm not a
take,
multiplayer that pauses.
smaller countries,
Okay, there's
especially
a rest
today.
area
And
coming
by
up.
the
I
way,
need to
you know
hit
who knows
that.
lesson? We do, because we couldn't hold Iraq. We certainly couldn't hold Afghanistan. And Afghanistan is one of the least developed nations on Earth, and we couldn't even win there. And so the Russians are finding out what we found out, and what they found out originally.
I figure running the
many
news during these
decades
recordings
ago.
might be a
It
little
is
bit of a
really
time
hard to
capsule
take
situation
and hold
also,
sovereign countries these days.
if anybody's
So that's
watching
great
later.
news. And that's bad news for empires. That's why, as progressives, we celebrate it as decent people.
Because at the currently
Now,
upload
but
rate,
here
this
in
isn't
this
going to go
case-
live
and by the way,
until
is it real? It's definitely real.
probably the beginning of
Because,
2023 at the
number
earliest.
One, you have Ukrainian flags going up in the town centers in every one of those major cities that they're talking about. You've got it on video. There's no question about it. But also, Anna, super interesting part that now has me worried is that the Russian media is admitting it. Now,
Yes.
wait a minute. If the Russian media is admitting it, Anna, there's some chance that it's like a tsunami. They're withdrawing so they could do a bigger hit later. And so I don't know that that's the case, but that is a possibility. And by bigger hit, I don't necessarily mean a larger scale invasion. They could just start dropping bombs from Russia that are much larger. So I don't know that yet, but it does make me worried.
Yeah, that's actually pretty terrifying, and it could be a strategy where the soldiers are bluffing and it seems like they're retreating, and then, they might, gather all of the might they have left and pursue another offensive. But I do want to mention that there is a lot of pressure.
Yeah,
for
my
Putin
sleeping
to
condition just went to red.
rethink his strategy here, because some of
And I'm pretty
the
full on gas.
aid that he's received from allied countries is now kind of teetering, right? So, for instance, the leader of the
We'll
Chechen
do a double rest,
Republic,
get lots of money.
Ramzan,
Because we're going for completion on top of everything
who,
else.
by the way, sent his own fighters to
Let's
Ukraine.
double check our
said that
garages.
if there are not immediate
Oh.
changes in Russia's conduct of the invasion,
Our garages
he
are
would
full.
have to
New garage.
contact the leadership of the country to explain to them the real situation on the ground. So basically issuing a threat to Putin. The other thing is, Putin engaged in this invasion. He engaged in the very beginning with this false notion that the troops
Okay.
were going to go in and Ukrainians were going to
Going
accept
for
them
the
with open arms because they
achievement
wanted to be liberated
for
from Ukrainian
being able to,
leadership. And of course that was a lie. The troops were lied to, the Russian
being
troops
able
specifically.
to
So they show
have a
up,
warehouse
and no,
in
they were not greeted
every,
with open arms. Clearly this is a sovereign country that
location
had no
in
interest
Italy
being invaded violently
Italia.
by Russian troops. And so the fact that they haven't given up is pretty incredible. I wanted to also embarrass myself by attempting to name the towns that have been taken back by Ukrainian forces, including Kindrashivka. You also have Chokolovsky and also Veliki, which has been taken back. But the first town that I had mentioned earlier in this report, Mykolaiv, which is in southern Ukraine, is still very much under Russian occupation. In fact, if we're keeping it real, about 1/5 of the country is still under Russian occupation. So it would be inaccurate to make it seem as though Ukraine has won this war. It is still going on. I would like to see more of an attempt to engage in peace talks, not just by Ukraine, but obviously by Russia in good faith. They claim that they want peace talks,
Okay,
but
this
every time they claim that,
probably
they
gonna be two
renege,
recordings.
they don't take it seriously, and they continue
Yeah.
engaging in this war.
But actually, that's taking a twist too. Now Ukraine is saying, we're not sure we want peace talks. And before they had said in talks that they were willing to give up some portion of land. They don't say it in those words, but they make it clear in diplomatic language. Now they've come out and said, no, we're not going to give up any land, including Crimea. We're not giving up an inch. So the Ukrainians definitely think that they're winning. So now let's go back to the drama of whether that's actually true or not. Look, there's only two possible explanations for the Chechen leader coming out and saying something harsh against Russian leadership and Russian media allowing news of their retreat. One is internal dissension. Putin has lost at least complete control. He probably still has, in this theory, a lot of control, but cannot contain everyone anymore. So things are leaking, okay? And so that is good news if that's the case. Now, the bad news scenario is a theory that, well, like I said, a tsunami, the wave withdraws before it comes in and crashes much harder. One of the reasons the Russian soldiers might be in an absolute panic to leave, and I can give you more details of that panic in a second, Anna, is that they might have gotten the orders, no, we're going to bomb the hell out of that place. You got to get out of there because we're not doing smart bombs. We're just doing mega bombs, right? And so I have no
I hope that doesn't
idea if
happen.
that's the case, and I don't want anybody to panic. I'm not a war expert, but it is weird that the Russian media, which does 100% propaganda, is conceding that they are running and that they are retreating. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course, of course. I mean, there could be some surprise attack. I think that your theory is, or at least the possibility of what you're saying is, I'm not going to say likely, but it could happen. I also wanted to just quickly go to one more video because The Guardian went and spoke to the people living in Mykolaiv, and this one elderly woman really stood out to me. She was a feisty one, and what she had to say about Putin was interesting. So let's take a look.
Я видел, что они бомбили нисколько.
Ой, все время бомбят.
Все время.
Мою родную школу, вот 15-я, на Плехановской. Вот там вот такой ров.
И кто виноват за эту ситуацию?
А кто ли? Путлер.
Путлер.
Английские журналисты.
Ну это Гитлер, Путлер, мне одно и то же.
Hitler, Putin, it's the same thing to you? All right.
So she calls Vladimir Putin Putler, and of course she does so while they're looking at a school that was bombed. I mean, certain parts of Ukraine have been completely leveled. And so I can understand the rage, the frustration, and I can also understand why after all of this, after all of the efforts to engage in peace talks in good faith, and Russia essentially reneging on any of their promises or agreements, I can understand why Ukraine is like, well, we've got the military might now, and it appears that they're retreating, so maybe we're not interested in peace talks. But I don't know if that's the right way to go about it, right? I think that they certainly lose the moral high ground when they refuse to engage in peace talks. And ending the war, engaging in any opportunity to end the war should be the priority here.
And at the same time, I wouldn't want to give up land when I'm winning either. So
That's true. Yep.
Yeah, and it's complicated. So look, one more piece of complication: those Russian troops. So Anna, I read that. So some of the Russians have committed war crimes for sure. There's a town where they found 50 civilians massacred. But in one of the towns they were talking to the Ukrainians, they said, look,
that doesn't count as a rest area.
When they first came in, they were actually pretty nice. Like, now, well, not with a giant asterisk. And that asterisk is very, very important. But they said that they had come to liberate us from America. And we were like, America doesn't control us. Because the Russians, the soldiers, have, remember, lived in Russia, where they have nonstop propaganda that Ukraine is occupied by Nazis and by America, and that they were going to liberate them. By the way, remember, here in America, we also live under propaganda.
True.
So when we did the Iraq invasion, a lot of the soldiers really thought we were going to be greeted as liberators, because that is what Dick Cheney had told them, the Bush administration, and it's a long time ago, but we were on the air. And I can tell you, and you can see the old clips of my great frustration, the mainstream media would not correct that. They made it seem like, oh, yeah, there's an excellent chance that Iraq is going to love being invaded by us. And so Putin did the same propaganda to the Russian soldiers. But the citizens of that town, talking to the Washington Post in particular, said as things went on, we realized, no, they're not just nice. Okay, I mean, even if they were sent under false pretenses. So the giant asterisk was, they said you can't go out after 6 o'clock. And one of the townsfolk said, yeah, these two guys, the local guys, fun-loving, presumably. They had some alcohol, which happens from time to time all across the world, certainly in that region as well. And they went out and they had their lights on, went out after 6, were executed. Jeez. Murdered,
yeah,
right? And so when you do an occupation, you have to kill people. And that's how an occupation works.
No, absolutely. I mean, some of the details of the brutality of this war, I mean, they're certainly out there. For instance, Ukrainian officials found this mass grave of 450, dead bodies, Ukrainian bodies, and they're investigating that as a potential war crime, along with other pretty heinous things that have happened that I don't really care to detail here that they're investigating as war crimes. So this has been a brutal war, and it's hard to give you an exact number of the amount of casualties on either side because of the fog of war. But it's been brutal, and when you hear the word occupation, no, it's not a friendly occupation. A lot of people have been executed as a result of this.
Yeah,
friendly occupation.
Look, there is no friendly occupation ever.
I was just thinking
imperialism, it's in favor of an empire. And so, but if the Russians withdraw now, and they still occupy 20% of Ukraine, so they're not anywhere near a full withdrawal. That's important context. But if they withdraw now, it will have been an awful, terrible imperialist attack against a sovereign country, and it will have been nowhere near as bad as what we did to Iraq.
Well, let's leave it at that. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, there's more international
it's true.
news, including the elections that just took place in Sweden. No good news there. We're going to share the details and more coming right up.
Super chat. Best line of the show so far. Anna says Russian soldiers just drop their rifles and book it. Time for Cenk to say Ukraine rough talked him and run him off. Yeah. I should have, Anthony. I should have. You're right. So, but Anna gets the best line there. All right, Lady Shuba is a YouTube member, and she said, started following TYT about a year ago after seeing Anna's viral video. Haven't looked back. I use some of your videos in the diversity trainings I do at my company. Thank you both for all you do.
That's awesome. Thank you for watching and supporting. We love you.
No, I totally agree. Thank you. It's really lovely to hear. Okay, Doo-Doo Bean wrote in, Tucker's probably going to spin this as Ukraine somehow. Of course, everything's Ukraine's fault. Mother Russia's never wrong on Fox News. French Fry says, Cenk should put out a reading list. I would be interested. Oh, but my list is mainly articles, half of which Anna sends me. So you should A, ask her.
What are we doing?
B,
Why is everybody stopped?
When it comes to books, I read so many articles I barely have time. But thank you for.
Why are you guys just stopped on the highway?
Real quick. The book I'm reading
is one of those
The Age
vehicles
of
wrecked?
Eisenhower, and it's an interesting biography about him. I recommend.
Okay, Anna, the question was directed at me, if you don't mind. But okay, all right, we'll just move on.
I just wanted to actually give him an answer, a decent answer. But go ahead.
Fair. She's named a book. I'll name a book. You think I won't name a book? I've been talking about it. Sapiens. Love it. I'm 7 years too late, but it's the best book in the world. All right, Kyle Craven says, lost my job earlier this month, but I'm still a member. I cut back on other subs, but there's no way I can cancel TYT. Wow, thank you, Kyle. You're awesome. Thank you for saying that. We like to think.
I did not look into my left mirror to make sure that was clear to merge, but
we wish that you get back
it worked
on your
out.
feet and that you have plenty of money for everyone. Okay, and everybody remember, only do what you can do. Do not push yourself past any limit. Okay. Embedded Dude said, I've been on the road since 5 a.m. Cenk's gonna have to add a lot of yelling to keep me awake. Can do. You're in luck. Good news. I'm good at that. Joe Anderson says, Anna, fantastic hair today.
Thank you.
Cenk, yours looks okay too. This is now a thing. Okay. All right. We're moving forward. Stop the Stupid says, as much as I hate Mondays, at least I have TYT when I'm at work. Look at that, the upside. I like when people find the upside.
You gonna pull out?
Sakino, I don't know, on Twitch says,
whoa.
Unfortunately, the war is far from over. Gomez 420 says, aw, Granny spicy.
I have a
totally
fine
agree.
on this
I
run.
loved
Salty. Yes. Yeah,
So all bets are off.
Weird that you would love her. Injustifiable says, Pootler fits oh so well. J.M. Frazier says, I'd love to see a bully pick a fight and get their ass beat. That's always a feel-good story.
I mean, that's true.
Janine123 says, TYT, you guys rock. Thank you for all that you do. Look, I appreciate all you guys. TYT.com/join. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. And Tipperary Dragon on Twitch says,
All right, what is this
TYT
turn
all
I
the
got
way
coming
from
up?
Ireland.
Is that a turn? Wait, no, that might just be a curve. That looks like it's just a curve.
Send a comment in from Ireland, making me do accents. It's your fault and you know it. All right,
Yeah,
Casper, what's next?
It's her fault. Let's move on. All right, well, we've got some more international news for you. Now we're going to move away from Ukraine, move over to Sweden, and talk about their national elections. The right wing in Sweden has unfortunately taken the lead in Sweden's national elections. In fact, with 95% of the vote counted,
I hate
the
passing
right-wing
narrowly other
Sweden
vehicles
Democrats
in curves.
seem to have a one-vote majority. Now, any labels, political labels you think of
I
here
cannot
in the
see that
United
truck
States,
in my rearview mirror. Is it still
forget
next to me?
everything you know about them, because
Oh, no, it's
in
way over there.
Sweden, the
Okay.
Swedish or Sweden Democrats, I should say, is a right-wing anti-immigration party that has run on a tough on crime platform, and I'll give you more details on that in just a moment. But again, this is a party that didn't seem to have much support. In fact, a few years ago, it won about 17% of the vote, and now that number has gone up to over 20%.
I'm losing frames in this tunnel.
Okay, so
seems like
let's
the
give
place
you the
you'd get
details
the
on what
most
happened.
frames.
Now, the full preliminary result will
And
not be
I've
due
skipped
until
frame
Wednesday,
warming in
because
Streamlabs.
there's still some mail-in ballots that are being counted. And
I don't know how
there are,
Streamlabs calculates
there's
it,
still
if
about
it's
5% of
talking
the vote
about
that has,
actually going to
be,
stream,
tallied.
which is what I thought it was
However,
doing.
it is very likely that the Prime Minister will be a moderate by the name of Ulf Kristersson. And this is going to make the situation very complicated in Sweden, especially when you consider the fact that you're going to have this moderate leader trying to form a coalition government with the right wing that appears to be in the majority right now. Now, the right wing
I did not
wasn't
handle
able to
that
increase its
hill
popularity
correctly.
due to sentiment toward immigration and crime, something that I actually wasn't aware of until fairly recently. Sweden's been grappling with gang violence, gun violence, and that fear within various communities in Sweden has pushed voters to
Tunnel to bridge to
move
tunnel.
closer to a right-wing.
We don't have almost any of that in America, as far as I know.
This next video will explain
None of
that
the states
in a
I've been in, really. We don't have that many
The
toll
Sweden
roads, actually.
Democrats, a party with neo-Nazi roots, is riding the wave of fear over gun violence.
The country is split, and it's very important that we get organized and come together.
It's important about not getting the far right into the system.
I don't like the way that people can't really talk and listen to each other anymore, but everything is getting polarized.
But for supporters of Jimmy Åkesson and the Sweden Democrats, the time for talking is over. The country has one of the worst gun violence records in Europe, with 335 shootings last year. According to a 2017 report, 9 out of 10 shootings in Sweden were committed by first or second generation immigrants.
Today, no one can go out without fear. We know it's because
Where am I that the frame rate is now 30?
Our country.
We need a new government.
It has irresponsible immigration policies.
So, a few other things that I want to mention, because I think a lot of people tend to take what's happening within their own country and think that it's the same situation in other countries. So, for instance, in the United States,
I mean, yeah,
while
I used to make that mistake.
the right-wing attempts to paint immigrants as criminals, as the individuals who are leading to an uptick in crime in this country, the evidence does not bear that out. There have been multiple studies looking into that, and it shows that immigrant neighborhoods tend to actually have lower crime than neighborhoods that mostly consist of U.S. citizens. Now, in Sweden, though, it
doesn't
does
look like there's a rest area
that
anywhere nearby.
The prevalence of crime gets tied to the immigrant communities, but it's not because immigrants are, by their very nature, violent people. There's been a lot of criticism about the Swedish government's inability to assimilate individuals, educate individuals, give them opportunities and a future. And so that's the criticism from, more left-wing individuals in Sweden. However, the right wing is just saying,
since
no,
we're so heavy, I'm going to hang out behind this truck for a moment.
They don't want any more refugees from Africa, for instance, coming in. And let me just note that refugees from Africa are mostly
I apologize to
coming
anybody
into
who's
Sweden as a
actively
result
watching
of
the picture.
Unlivable conditions,
I know some of you are just here for the dialogue and or the
natural
audio.
disasters and things like that. And they also have been taking in
But,
refugees from Ukraine as well.
I don't know
But
why
they
the
want
frames are
to,
dropping.
The right wing, at least, they want
I haven't
to
changed anything
stop
today.
the flow of immigration, and they want to focus
19%
on
of frames over the last 2 minutes?
the
That seems
refugees
really
and
bad.
immigrants who are within the country already. That's a lot to get into, Cenk. Before I give you more details, why don't you jump in? Tell me what you think.
Yeah. Look, this is a little bit of bittersweet news. There's no way we're going to do a Sweden story without me doing a dad joke. It's just not possible. I just wanted to get it out of the way, okay? Now, having said that, there's going to be lots of twists and turns in this story. It's not as simple as you might imagine, okay? So first of all, let me just go over what Anna said, but I can give it a little bit more color. So, because it's hard to keep up.
Shifting the
if you're
wrong
not
way.
familiar
There we
with
go.
Another country's, parties. So the Social Democrats are the left.
Yes.
The moderates are the conservatives. The Sweden Democrats are the really conservatives. So Social Democrats left.
So the far right.
Swedish Democrats far right. Okay, so that obviously doesn't make any sense, but we're moving forward. Okay, it doesn't have to make sense. It's not your country, it's their country. So that's just how it developed. Okay, so don't get confused by the labels. So now, number two, their politics is not necessarily the same as our politics in terms of right wing and left wing. So some of their right wing positions are right wing, just like you would have here in America. But there are two positions that they have that are very popular among the Swedish Democrats that are the far right. Okay, one is they're against guns. Now, here in America, our right wing is in favor of guns, but their right wing associates it with violence.
Crazy amounts.
Why? Because apparently they're not insane. They can make an easy logical connection. They're like, the guns are the thing that kills people. We don't want people killed. We're against crime, violence, and hence, obviously, guns. So they're more anti-gun than the rest of the parties. And then number two is, I'm going to give you a quote here from Reuters. With the Sweden Democrats opposed to his flagship policy, referring to the other side, of benefit cuts.
Yeah.
The far right is opposed to benefit cuts, Anna. And so, because why? Because they're populist. But unlike in America, where the right wing uses it as fake populism and wants to cut benefits for average Americans,
I don't know. ETS still causes frame drops somewhere. I haven't quite figured it out.
A right-wing strand.
I'm in more of the base game content, so maybe it's not. It should be more refined by now, but maybe it's not.
The benefits that the government gives.
Yeah, I mean, what they want. I mean, the similarity between right-wing populists in Sweden and right-wing populists here in the United States is that they are nationalists. Like, they want to close the country down. They want to stop the flow of immigration, including legal immigration. They don't want to accept any refugees.
I'm assuming that's where the I was going to assume that's where the frame drops came from, but
economic matters, so they do not want to cut funding on social programs or social spending.
Spam phone call.
The other thing that they want to do is just mostly focus on assimilation.
But that area outside was
assimilation is a tricky word.
59 FPS. So
I've always had kind of a negative reaction to it, but what I'm gathering from, honestly, the majority of voters in Sweden is that they want to take people who have already immigrated.
Oh, it's probably
there,
the time of day in shadows. That's probably what's doing it.
And basically create a society in which they fit in, right? Where they understand the laws, they get an education. These are things that they want to focus on, which is also a little different.
I should pull over and rest
at
the next rest location
here in the United States. But again, that nationalist message certainly is still there, and it is shared between right-wingers in the United States and in Sweden. So yeah, there's that. The other thing I wanted to just quickly mention is this is unlikely to do. Let's say the right wing is officially the majority. They've counted all the votes. They're officially the majority. It is unlikely to have any impact on whether or not Sweden joins NATO. They're making moves to join NATO given the Russian invasion into Ukraine, and that's likely to still happen even with a right-wing majority in government in Sweden.
Yeah. You know, I just say add one thing on assimilation, because I'm an immigrant, and I came into the country when I was 8 years old, and the answer is, of course, balance. It's always balance, but neither side ever gets the balance, right? So what does balance mean? One, I think that you're better off, especially if you're a kid under the age of 12, doing immersive learning in the English language. And so a lot of people disagree with that, and then they'll even get angry at me. But I lived it, and I know that for me, and probably for a lot of kids, immersive learning is better. So just
what do you mean by immersive learning?
So they didn't accommodate me and teach the classes in Turkish as well. I mean, it would have been, I think, absurd. I mean, how are you going to find a Turkish teacher in the middle of East Brunswick, New Jersey? And sometimes our side says, no, you have to find one that knows Tagalog and Turkish and Urdu, and, and I'm being extreme, right? But certainly Spanish is one that is taught and this is a very normal left-wing position. We should teach Spanish and English at the same time for immigrants so they can assimilate. They think that will lead to better assimilation. I don't think so. I think learning English is by being immersive and just going to the English classes is the better way to go. But by the way, my school provided a
Get
teacher
myself
for
some new
me,
trucks.
a Vietnamese kid,
Ivanka.
a Korean kid. So, they would show pictures of a cat and say cat, and that's how we learn English, right? And so I just give that as a small example. There's 1,000 ways to assimilate without losing your cultural identity.
Right. Yeah. No, I like that you mentioned that, because for the longest time, and still today, when I hear the word assimilation, especially considering the political party that tends to use that word here in the United States, what they do refer to is essentially just shedding your cultural identity. And I disagree with that. I think that culture is a wonderful thing. I think it enriches
I don't quite have enough money for a third one.
diverse
Damn.
as the United States. But if we're talking
well.
about assimilation in
Urban
regard
agency.
to learning the language, learning what the cultural norms are, right? What the what laws are in this new country that you're living
Or
in. Obviously, you
Solia?
need that for
Is
a
it true these
country
are
to
all
have like a sound identity, if that makes any sense, without forcing people to shed what their culture
long distance value and
the last thing
fragile?
I'll say on that is, look, in Europe, probably the best cultural export in European history is doner kebab. And I don't know.
All right, for anybody who's watching later on
So
YouTube,
that's
I would
Turkish
like
version
to
of a
thank you
gyro.
for
It's
watching.
super popular all
This
over Europe,
yoink.
especially in the northern European countries. So
This has been Euro Truck Simulator 2, presented by Improvision Entertainment. I've been Hunterman, and I will see you in the future. I meant to knock that to the full screen, but I forget to hold Alt when I did it. In any event, later.